Welcome back to the Breaking Skin podcast. I'm really excited to be interviewing a friend of mine, Michelle, Brow Joon, on all the apps. Michelle has been tattooing since 2019, so almost 6 years now in Austin, Texas. We work together at No Good Tattoo, and she does permanent makeup, so eyebrows and freckles, and they're pretty amazing. So I'm really excited to learn more about that world.
Thanks. That means so much.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you got to get that a lot.
I feel like it's definitely imposter syndrome when I'm around y'all because I'm like, no, but y'all are like 10,000 times like more amazing.
You've got to know that we feel that
do,
about you. We feel the same way. Anyway, tell me about how you got into tattooing, your first year in tattooing, kind of what that trigger was to get you into this career.
Yeah. So I was a nanny for a long time, almost basically 11 years. And I was like tired of that to some degree and just like kind of wondering what my future would be. So I was trying to look for something to do next. I was doing makeup at the time just for funsies on the side. And then basically I had looked into microblading before as like a job, but also as something that I wanted to get done and was really interested in it, but I kind of had like forgotten about it for a couple years. And then long story short, in early 2019, my friend was like, what about this? And I was like, oh yes, I love that. I already wanted to do that. But at the time I couldn't find trainings that were like doable, especially being like a broke person living with their parents. So I was just like, whatever. So in 2019, it was like, oh wait, this could actually be perfect for right now. So I literally just like put everything on my credit card, took like a 3-day training course that was definitely not enough. And then, just basically crossed my fingers and hoped that it would work out. Looking back, I definitely the scariest thing I've ever done, like truly, but for some reason just was so like excited about the idea of it and like the opportunity, even though I didn't actually realize at the time that it was tattooing. I thought it was just like this extra special thing that's like maybe more similar to lashes or something, you know? And then long story short, once I took the course, I was like, wait, what? We're doing what? I'm cutting people's skin, you know? Like it was crazy. So I basically just hoped that everything went okay, and it ended up going okay for the most part. So yeah.
I love that you are just like, I think this is like lashes. I think I were just gonna pop this on. And then
I don't think I knew what it was. Yeah. I thought it was like, I knew it was like obviously permanent to some degree, but I didn't realize that it is tattooing. It's implanting pigment under the skin, which is tattooing basically.
Yeah. Did you have like a moment where you were like, oh my gosh, I'm tattooing? I'm sure you didn't imagine that you would end up in a tattoo studio.
Never. I always thought it was like obviously a beauty thing, which it is, but I also didn't realize that, there's so much overlap. And like you can learn so much from other tattooers, even though you're not doing the same thing, basically. But yeah, there was this moment on the because the way that the training worked was like 2 days of like instruction and like going over stuff and like drawing on each other and all that. And then the third day was supposed to be you do a model. And that was terrifying because 2 days of instruction of learning something new, especially tattooing, is definitely not enough at all. But by that third day, the way that it was set up, I got to watch some of the other students first. So I'm like watching and I'm like, wait, what? Like there's blood? This is painful? This is like a cut? Like I literally I don't know. It just all hit me in that moment. And my sister was my model. So I was like, I have to keep my cool. Like, I don't want her to be freaked out. So I was just like, yeah, this is fine. We're doing this. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're doing this.
That's so
but
funny.
Luckily, it went okay, but yeah, it was scary.
I can't imagine the feeling of like you and your sister sitting in this class that you like, where did this class take place? Like, are you in a public library?
Oh my gosh, that sounds crazy. No, it's like at this place in Austin. I don't know if I should say the name, but it's Texas Laser Anesthetics. And they do like a lot, like courses every weekend. So it's very like they have people coming in and out. They're just trying to kind of like instruct as little as possible, in my opinion. But yeah, so it was just like me and my sister had no idea what we were signing up for. And then the day of, it was like everybody else's models were going wrong. And so I was just sitting there like, okay, and I have to do this after everyone's done.
Was your
It's like,
sister looking at you like, are
it's so
you
scary. Well,
serious?
she had had it done before. So she wasn't scared at all. She was like, yeah, I mean, I trust you. And like, it might go wrong for them, but like, I know that you got it because I trust you basically, which is obviously so nice. And sometimes I'm like, you should not have trusted me as much as you did. But yeah, she was so kind to do that for me because I was like, yeah, freaking out. But she was just like, yeah, it's fine. That's what we're doing.
Did you pull her to the side and
Surprise.
be like, you didn't tell me that I was going to be cutting you today? Why didn't you tell me
I know.
this?
I was like, oh, I have to hurt her. Like, this is my sister and I have to hurt her. This sucks. But the funny thing is back then I didn't realize that numbing cream doesn't last very long because on like the instructions, it's like it lasts 2 to 3 hours, which is like such a lie. So my sister was sitting there for an hour before we got started and like it was definitely not numb too. And she was just like chilling. Like it was an easy spa day, basically. So yeah, she was
Wow.
100% chilled, and I was the one that was like, "Okay, here we go," freaking out.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so funny. Okay, so in getting into permanent makeup, is doing a small course like that normal? I know that like in traditional tattooing, like we know a lot of self-taught artists, we know people in apprenticeships, but I'm not sure about permanent makeup.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it is very normal. And I think that's why the market got so saturated. Like, there was so many artists for a second. And I truly don't blame the artists fully. I blame the instructors because I was also sold this dream of like this 3 day course, and then you can have, 6-figure income and like all this stuff. So, unfortunately, it is common to have like a 2, 3 day course. At most, I've heard of like 5 days courses, but even that, I'm like, it's something that you really have to like dedicate to. I mean, like with any tattooing, it's like you really have to like dedicate your time to and practice for a long time before it's going to be something that you're like, I got this. So, yeah, I unfortunately think that is really common. I think that there are apprenticeships, but there's so few and far between. And the permanent makeup industry specifically is very like, for the most part, like, I don't want to share my secrets. I don't want to like, give you business. So people aren't willing to do apprenticeships as much because they feel like the market is already saturated. So it's just a hard thing to find. So yeah. So when I started, I was like, well, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I did the course and then my teacher was like, just start doing it. Just get a space and start doing it. So I like got a space, one of those like solo salon kind of places. And luckily, you had like 90 days to get out of the lease because within 30 days, I was like, this will never work. Like, you can't just like open a business and not have any clientele and not have any idea what you're actually doing. Like, so yeah. So within the 90 days, I told them that I was not going to keep that lease because that's literally impossible to somebody that's new. It's ridiculous. But then I worked from home for a little bit, and I know that that's not always looked great upon, but unfortunately, it was just where I was at. And I was so, like, just so new to everything. And it was so scary that I was like, I can't put myself out there and try to find, a shop or a studio or something. So I just worked from home, and that allowed me to like really grow my art in that way, just having like less pressure financially. But if I could go back, I would work my butt off to try to find apprenticeship. But again, I don't think that that was even a possibility for me, basically.
It's hard. It is so hard to find an apprenticeship in
Yeah.
tattooing, and there's tattoo artists everywhere. So I can only imagine that's like the same for permanent makeup.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know people are so picky about who they take on. So it's hard.
If they
But
take anyone, yeah. And some half the time when
yeah.
they're taking you, they just want your money, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Where they're like making you be their like trash person, basically,
You're
like
like a free
just
assistant,
cleaning.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I have friends that did apprenticeships, like normal tattoo apprenticeships, and they didn't tattoo for like 2 years because they just had them like cleaning and just doing things that were completely unrelated to it for 2 years. It's like, cool,
They
great.
try to make it
What
sound
a
like it's like
waste
a
of time.
Karate Kid moment.
Yeah.
They're like,
Oh,
this
no,
is gonna,
yeah.
I drew little
You're gonna
tiny
learn.
circles on a piece of paper
Uh-huh.
for hours. And
Yeah. But then
honestly, I,
I have another friend that like did an apprenticeship and they were showing me their apprenticeship workbook and I was like, this is what it should be is like you're learning how to use your hand correctly and all of that. And I was just so jealous. So I was like, that looks amazing that somebody was sitting there and giving you that time and like instruction and care basically. But yeah,
Must be nice for
I
them.
know that's
That's
how
what
I wish it would be for everybody, but
uh,
it's rough.
it is rough. And it's like the state of Texas has so little direction in what they require. It's not like Oregon,
Yeah.
well, in Kansas, you do 2 years and X amount of procedures. And
Exactly. And the same with like instructors for permanent makeup specifically. Like there's no laws, there's nothing to like prevent you from being ripped off and getting, no instruction essentially. There's
yeah,
no like, I don't know, board or anything that they have to like show their course material to. Like there's literally, they don't give a shit. They're just like, good luck.
is that
Hope
Texas
this works for
specifically,
you.
or like is that pretty like national?
It does happen nationally, but I think states like Texas that have less regulation on it, it does happen more and obviously worse. Like there are states that have a little more regulation on like hours and all of that you were talking about. And I think that helps with the schools to have to be like better in that way too. And not just be like 3 days, bye, see ya, good luck.
Bye. The Wild West for real. So whenever you
For
transitioned
real.
from makeup and then you decided to do permanent makeup, is there something about that that really pulled you to it to leave just makeup artistry in general?
I mean, I think in general, love a good like for lack of a better word, like fix, like I love like when something is off and like if there's a stack of business cards and it's not like right, like I love to like fix that and make it straight. And I think that that coincides with like makeup and permanent makeup because you kind of get the feeling of like, especially the way I like to do things is like you're accentuating what somebody already has. You're not like changing or like, completely fixing in that way. But I do think like a little here and there makes such a huge difference. And on myself and on clients when I was doing makeup, just being able to be like, wow, okay, that like really brings out your eyes or, something like that. That's like, I don't know, it's just so satisfying to me. And I think that's the one thing that did cross over from like makeup to permanent makeup of like, ooh, this is satisfying as fuck, like it just is so nice.
Did you have a moment whenever you were learning or working at home or things like that where you kind of were working with someone and you did that fix and you just felt that, all right, like, okay, I did
Uh-huh.
that.
Yeah, yeah. When I was doing like makeup and even beginning days of microblading, like just being like, oh, wow, like that really made a big difference on that person's face. I think especially with permanent makeup, because I get so many clients that are like, I have no idea what to do, or like they're just so different from each other and it's stressful for me. And so just knowing like that they are happier in their day to day is like, I don't know, it's so exciting to me. I'm like, I did it.
Yeah, yeah. It does feel good. I think that's what takes a lot of people into tattooing. And I've seen your clients when they leave, I feel like they're glowing and it's on their face,
Hopefully.
it's something that's so
Yeah.
it's them. It's them when you see them. When it comes to your journey in tattooing, I've heard a little bit about you worked at home, you've worked at the Sola salon experience. I met you when you were in a private studio, now you're in a shop. I don't know if you've worked in more shops, and things like that. What's that been like, or has that affected the way you work?
Yeah. I mean, it has been a wild journey. I won't lie. Having my own space, being in other like shops and cosmetic studios and stuff, like it's just been a whole ride. But I'm happy to have done that ride if it means that I'm where I'm at now. I do think that working around other artists is always inspiring to me personally. Like when I worked alone, it was nice because you have more focus, like, especially me having ADHD, like, I'm more focused. I'm not like looking around the room, But I do think that there is this level of like community that I really love in a shop. And if it's done right, the shop, then it's just like a really supportive space. So I think for me, that was one thing that I missed when I was by myself for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think that the the shops that you're in can be good and bad for your work, like because all of it is art. And so if you're not feeding like the artist side of you, as cheesy as that is, then, it can not be as good work. And I think that it has really shown in my work where I was struggling in a space and where I was doing really well. Because, like, I have this period of time specifically where I was really struggling. It's what burned me out, basically, because it was not a good environment and I was overworking myself. And basically at that time, like, I still have clients from that time that I like the work I did on them. But for the most part, it's just not as good work as when I was thriving. And it's sad to see because I don't want it to affect my work. But unfortunately, it is an art, and it is like, if you're not in a good space mentally, if you're not in a good space, like literally physically, then, you're not, it's your artwork is gonna not be as good, basically.
No,
But
definitely. I mean,
yeah,
you pull so much influence and energy from the people around you. Um,
definitely.
let's talk about that. Like, I didn't even realize that you worked in a space like that or experienced a burnout or a lull in a moment that maybe you kind of were like, I may not want to do this anymore, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because it was like my busiest, and I was like, okay, maybe I made it. Like, maybe this is what making it is like. But then I was like, I don't think I can actually live like this. Like, I can't do like I was doing like 5 to 6 days a week, which is not, not sustainable. But even like 4 to 5 days a week, like, that's too much for my body personally with like the like chronic health issues that I have. So just finding that in between of like, oh, okay, that's too much. That was like a whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I worked at a tattoo shop. That was the first place I worked out outside of my home. And I was there for a couple months, and then I moved to like a cosmetic studio specifically. And then long story short, after like a year, that kind of blew up. And then that's when I went on my own. And I think going on my own was really important for me because I needed like a healing time. The two shops I worked at previously, as much as I liked it in a lot of ways, it wasn't like a healthy work environment. So it was really important for me to go out on my own and just like have no outside like distractions, no one like influencing my day-to-day work, not coming into work feeling like anxious, and just having like peace, basically. And especially that building I was in, I just like, I don't know, it made me so happy to be there. And I think it was just like the universe or something like just brought this opportunity to me to give me that like little healing space, basically. And then after being there for even like a year and a half, I was like, okay, like, I think I'm ready to be with people again. I enjoy that more in my personal opinion. And so yeah, once I could, I kind of was like, okay, let's go back to a shop. So then I worked at another shop, and that was amazing. I loved it there. But the goal has always been to work at No Good. So I was like, I want to work there so bad. I've been trying to. It's just not worked out timing wise. So yeah, then it worked out, and I feel like it's been home so far. So that's nice.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I also really love working there. When it comes to shop environments in general, bad things happen and everyone has a horror story. I've certainly had bosses and a mentor in particular who I had to like mute their name on my phone because when it would come up, it would give me so much anxiety and it would like send my
Yeah.
day into like
Yeah.
negative spaces. What do you think in these shops makes a bad environment, a good environment, or cultivating something that's positive and trying to get away from these negative spaces that really like hinder artistry for some people?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a couple things. I think one of the things is like just an understanding of like open communication. We're all just trying to be people here, and we're not trying to like one up each other or like I'm better than you, or or whatever. And then I also think that there's like this toxic like we're a family kind of thing that can come across, especially in more like female oriented spaces. I feel like that happens a lot. And like the cosmetic studio I worked at, one of the first things she said when we had like our initial meeting was like, we're a family. Like, I want everyone to feel like a family here. And my brain was like, that's a red flag. But I didn't allow it to like fully, gut in my vision. But yeah, I just think that there's a way to get along. There's a way to in a sense be a community like I was talking about without having that be like muddied. Because at the end of the day, in most shops, there is an owner or there is, people who are essentially to some degree, to dumb it down, like making money off of other people. And that's fine if you're getting enough out of it. Like I've worked at shops that I'm like, the price I pay feels worth it because I'm getting so much out of it. Like that's kind of where we're at right now. But I've also worked at shops where it's like, okay, I'm paying you so much and I feel like I'm getting so little back. And at the same time, you're acting like it's like I'm doing everything wrong and like you're barely making enough money, and all this stuff. And it's just like there needs to be like a clear line of like, this is a business first. Unless you want to do, like a collective or something like that, like then it's a business and you need to be open and honest about that. Like, okay, this is a business. I do need to feed my family and I do need to be paid for like the work that I'm doing, which is totally fine, again, if you're getting something out of it. But one of the places I worked at specifically, it just felt like the owner was constantly like throwing away money in ways. And it was frustrating because she would talk about not being able to make rent, but it'd be like, I know that like me and two other people are making way more than the rent is, like we're paying way more than the rent is. So anyways, all of that to say that I think that's like a big part of it is just that like line of boundaries and being just like open and honest about it, not pretending like there's like some ride or die kind of situation there. It's like, no, this is a business. And then honestly, I think the other thing is just like freedom. Like I think when owners try to control too much and things that are not that things that they should be able to control, like your personal, business, essentially, it starts to kind of become, in my opinion, not great. And also, I guess the last thing I would say would just be that, having a space that is actually like trying to be as welcoming to everybody as possible. A lot of people, two of the people I worked for, love to be like, this is a safe space for all. But at the end of the day are like misgendering people, including their own employees, like, like just making it a hostile environment for both employees and clients. And that's not okay to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it happens a lot. And probably especially in Austin because, I mean, we're in Texas, but still like a much more open-minded space. You
Definitely.
have to say that you're inclusive and welcoming to all. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't have a business here.
Yeah. It's such like virtue signaling for sure. It's just kind of like, okay, but have you put in any of the work that it takes to be somebody that is safe to be around, I think too, because these people that I'm talking about specifically are female. And I think sometimes, especially white women, love to be like, and I mean, we're both white women, but like, love to be like, like, yes, like I'm so accepting of all, like, safe space for all. But it's like, okay, but have you actually like thought about what that means? Have you actually like corrected yourself in scenarios where you're saying the wrong thing? Have you actually, like read about it or like talked to people about it or anything? And it just feels like they want to do like the bare minimum to get those like points, basically, like you're saying, and be like, yeah, see, you can come to me, but then actually not do anything to make it a comfortable space for everyone. It's like so infuriating.
And I feel like it's so subconscious. Like, and because it's
Definitely.
tattooing, who are you going to call? The HR department?
Yeah, exactly. There's no one that's there to support you at all, for sure.
No, there's not even like, I can't even think of like a government entity. Like there's so many women employed as tattoo artists or have been clients of tattoo artists who have experienced racism, sexism, assault, harassment, da 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 da. You can call the state. They ain't coming.
Yeah, they're not gonna care.
No,
They're
the
just
only
like,
time
hey.
that anybody ever gets traction, it feels like that I've noticed from an artist perspective has been exposure accounts. Recently, I've seen several men in Austin, their client starts posting these stories and pops up these exposure accounts, and then they can't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard because it's like, what if someone's not that quote unquote bad where they like, sexually assaulted someone? Like, is there, where are those checks and balances like for anybody? Because, yeah, it's like, it sucks that that's the only avenue that people who have been assaulted or have had bad experiences have. Because it's like, yeah, I wish there was a way to be like, hey, like, everybody, don't go this place because it sucks. But it's like you can't really do that when it's not that again, that bad in that way. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, this person sucks. Please don't go to them. But like, what am I gonna say? Like, they
And
just were
yeah,
not a nice person and misgendered people. You know, like I don't know.
I know.
They're a
And then like
manipulative person. Like,
I feel like I'd get in my head and be like, maybe it's just me. Maybe like I misheard it, like gaslighting myself into thinking
yeah,
that it's not a big deal. And then how many other people feel
yeah,
that way? It's not like there's and
exactly. And that's the
something to be done.
interesting thing too. Because, yeah, when I went off on my own and I had clients come back, it was very, very, very interesting to see their reaction. Like, I wasn't being like telling anybody what happened unless they asked, because I just try not to be messy in that way, as
Mhm.
much as possible. And honestly, at the time, had a lot of anxiety about everything that went down too, because I was scared that that person was like spreading rumors about me. So I was just staying quiet about it anyways. But it was so interesting how many clients came to me when I was on my own and were like, I actually didn't feel safe in that last place you were in. Like, I actually was misgendered there. I actually didn't feel like, non-binary people were welcome. I didn't feel like men were welcome, or, like trans people were welcome. And I'm like, that sucks. So like, that sucks,
Yeah. And no one
because
says
like
anything. You want to fix
yeah.
it.
And like,
But
and I don't even put it on my clients to like have to tell me, because like I
yeah.
don't want them to be uncomfortable or ever be in that scenario. Like, I feel so like mama bear in that situation where I'm like, oh, like I want to protect them so bad, and I never would want somebody to come into any space that I'm in and feel uncomfortable like that. So to find out after the fact, which I'm just glad that they told me in general, was just like so heartbreaking, and it made me be like I have to do better diligence in picking places that I work, because it does not just affect me and my mental health, but it could affect my clients that I really care about and their mental health.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Definitely. That makes sense. There are good ones out there. I feel like we found a really good one,
yeah,
no good.
yeah, same.
Yeah. And yeah, I was like, I
It
could
just
feel like
feels
go
like
on
this.
forever.
Yeah, it just feels like there's a difference between an owner or a manager who is willing to listen and is willing to be like, I hear you, we'll figure it out, or whatever. And somebody who you talk to and you're like, they didn't hear me, they don't care, they're not going to change things.
It's
Like,
like
there is
the
just
tone
such a huge difference.
deafness. And it's not just one thing. It's like
Yeah,
jokes, it's comments in private that you may hear, and then it does
true.
reflect. And I feel like
Definitely.
things change. Like whenever I was last in a traditional shop, it was really good towards the end. I feel like people were like, when I was working as an official artist, not as an apprentice, I had people be like, for a traditional shop, this feels really safe. Like this feels good.
Yeah.
I feel like safe here, and I didn't expect that. But whenever I worked there with my mentor, we got very different commentary sometimes that I didn't even know about until he was gone. And then these women were coming in and
Yeah.
being like, yeah, I can't go work with him in private. It doesn't feel safe.
That sucks.
Wild. And these stories are on repeat, I swear.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
being
It's like, I don't want anyone to have that
no,
scenario for their
no,
tattoos. Like,
no. And I think tattoo
no.
artists are so like, at least maybe like I feel this way. I know you feel this way. I don't know if this is all tattoo artists or just like women and like non-binary folks being so like loving and protective, and queer
Yeah.
folks, but we're like, don't you dare come for my client.
Yeah, for real. I'm
Bust
like
my
so
babe.
protective. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want anything to happen to you ever.
No, I
Nothing.
want you to have a good experience. I want your tattoo to look amazing. And if you need help, I want you to
Yeah.
call me.
I want you to feel comfortable to be like around me or talking to me or dealing with me. Like, I don't want you to be scared of me, or like if she's going to like say something rude to me or something that's going to like, hurt me in any way. Like, I want them to be 100% like, cool, this is going to be a comfortable, easy, fun time. Hopefully fun, but yeah.
Definitely. And sometimes people come to us when it's like they're down low. Like I have some people that I know when they're calling
Yeah.
me, it's like therapy season, it's therapy time. We're gonna talk about some
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
Or
so
even like
true.
election week. I had someone who had done some pretty like powerful like work in the nursing scape for women, abortion care when it was on the rocks, now doing some forensic nursing for women
Oh,
who have been
wow.
hurt. And when she hit me up and was like, it's election week and I really need like an escape, we need to do a tattoo, I didn't even have time in my schedule. And I was like, we're seeing
We're
you.
doing.
We're doing it. We're
Yeah.
going to find the time. And I'm
Yeah,
sure you get that
totally. 'Cause,
too.
yeah, I think anything that's for yourself, like tattooing or other services, it's like, yeah, there's just times where clients just really need like a place to decompress in that way. And it used to shock me, like when people would lay down on my table and start, being like, oh, I just went through a divorce or this or that, like these big life things. And I'm like, I don't even know you that well. But now, like having done this for a couple years, I think it really is just like, I don't know. It's like obviously the vibe that we bring as like service providers, but I think it's also like just the vibe of self care. Like when people are doing something for themselves, especially if they're like laying down or like relaxing in any way, I feel like it becomes like you just like vomit words, you're just like, because myself included, like when I was getting tattooed the other day, all of a sudden I was like, why am I saying all this? But it's like, I don't know, you just get like comfortable and you're just like, this is so nice.
I kind of wonder
Therapy.
sometimes if it's like, especially when they can't see me and I'm tattooing them, like if they're on their stomach or something, or like if you're doing their eyebrows, their eyes are closed. Then one, it's like they're talking to the abyss. Like they can't even see who they're talking to. It's like talking to
True.
the wall. And they're like releasing so much pain. It just like everything is
So
coming out.
true. Yeah. I forgot who told me this. It was someone very recently told me, and I think it was a client that they really believe that like anytime the skin is open, it's like releasing things.
I think it's
And I
flow.
thought that
Is
was
it flow?
it was slow. You're right. Because I did her brows. I forgot. But yeah, because I'm like, I totally see that, especially because like even with haircuts, like you get your haircut and you feel like you're like, sometimes you're like, wow, I'm like a new person inside. Like I feel so refreshed inside, not just like my actual hair. And I think that's true about like tattooing and stuff. It's just something about like shedding something, even though it's not in the same way, I don't know, but it's interesting.
No, definitely. And I'm sure you with permanent makeup, like tattoos and art, definitely. But you're like working on people's faces. And sometimes you're working with people like I remember when because I had trichotillomania. So I was, as you know, so I was like
Oh,
pulling my eyebrow hairs out and I just didn't have any. And then for years, one,
I
I was
didn't know
doing the makeup
that.
so bad. That's why they were like so patchy when we did our consult. But I was doing the makeup, it was like orange. Luckily, I had a friend in high school who was like kind enough to tell me that they looked bad. But the first time I got my eyebrows done, I was like, I think I'm gonna cry. Like I can see them on my
Yeah.
face. I'm sure you have these experiences with people who are just like, wow, this is actually changing how I see myself every single day on my face.
Yeah, it's so cheesy and it's again something that I feel ridiculous even saying. But yeah, like I've had people cry when we finish because like for a lot of people, brows are such a huge part of your face. And if you struggled with it, especially if you're like even remotely older and you're like, I've been struggling with this for 20 years, then it's like having this like difference on your face that makes you feel better about yourself in even the smallest amount of way. I think is like, yeah, it really hits people hard sometimes. And I'm always shocked. And like, I'm this weirdo that like in uncomfortable or like not just uncomfortable, but like, I don't know, in any scenario, I'm giggling basically, like pretty much any scenario I'm giggling. And so like, I don't know, it's like, it makes me smile because I'm so happy to like, have like brought them this joy in that way and like this like feeling of like completedness in their face and just like happiness in that way. But yeah, but then it just feels so ridiculous to be like, I'm changing lives through eyebrows. It's like, okay, but you're not. But like, it really does feel
I
like that for
know.
some people because of how much they struggle with it. And yeah, I mean, I have other clients that have like trichotillomania and like, I've had clients that have cancer, I've had cancer. And like, it really does make a big difference as cheesy as it is to like have something there. Even for myself, like I have thyroid issues. And so like I grow less hair from like the ends of my eyebrows. And it used to make me so self-conscious because I just felt like I always just didn't look like I had any expression to my face or anything because if I didn't have makeup in there, it was just kind of like And I think brows really do frame your face and they accentuate like your eyes, your nose, your bone structure, like so much. And so having something in there every day, even though my microblading isn't like perfect, I do feel like I'm like, oh, I'm so, so grateful it's there. It just like makes me so like not have to think about it. And that's how it should be, you know?
Definitely. I feel like you do such a good job of like being intentional with your clients, which
I
I
appreciate that.
oh, girl, for real, seriously. Do you think that there's been like a interaction when you think about the work you're doing with people that really sticks with you, like a client story or like a client experience that you're like, wow, this is something?
I mean, like I said, I have worked with people who have had cancer or have cancer and are going into chemotherapy. I mean, it's an easy one, but those have to be the best just because, especially for the clients who have lost the brows that they had and they are like missing that part of them. It's so beautiful to like bring that back for them. I've had clients too specifically that I can think of that had cancer and they brought me in photos of like when they were a kid, when they were a teenager, you know, when they were like early 20s to show me what their brows used to look like so we could mimic it as much as possible. And in those scenarios, like it really is not about me at all. It's just about like that they want to feel like themselves again. And I'm just happy that I get to be a part of that, basically. It sounds so cheesy again, but it just is
It's
like,
true though. There is like
it's
a
so
level of
beautiful.
love that goes into this work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate that like other people see that because I'm like, I don't know. It just is such an important thing to me that clients feel that way too. So thank you.
I mean, if they're crying at the end, I've only had two people cry, and I feel like
Really?
you get it much more often than I'm getting it. Just
Uh,
thinking about it, I do feel like that you when because our shop is not big, like we can hear each other.
um,
But when you like
and I'm loud.
speak, no, you have a little mask on. You wear a little mask when you're working, so you have to talk to get through it. I know I'm loud.
I feel like I'm like, yap, yap, yap.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm screaming stories and
Same.
cackling, and then I'm involving everyone else's clients because I'm like, you have to hear
Uh-huh.
this. But you're just so intentional and careful and thorough with the way that you like speak and present every single part of your process from before they even come in to after they leave. Where does this come from? Like your aftercare kit is unreal. We talk about it just so everyone knows what's in this aftercare kit. All I know is it's like it's Mish's favorite jelly. It's some tea. You get to pick the flavor. You get like a sticker. There might be a hug inside. I don't know. It's so like it's like
I love
ASMR
knowing what you're
level.
picking.
Like I'm like you got to go to her because I feel like it's like ASMR.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. I don't like love ASMR, but I love the vibe of ASMR. You know what I mean? Like it's just so chilled.
You could do
I
it. You could
appreciate
totally be an
that.
ASMR artist.
That's what everyone keeps saying to me lately. And I'm like, should I try this out? Should this be my next thing, my next side gig?
If YouTube dies, or if TikTok dies, everyone's going to YouTube. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I
Maybe
have
we'll do that.
a friend who's like a micro influencer, and that's where she's moving all of her content. So
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I'm worried about this whole TikTok thing. I'm like, no, I love TikTok.
yeah, what am I supposed to do at night
Yeah. Where do I scroll endlessly?
when I'm supposed to be sleeping? Anyway, all of this love and care that you have and like have really obviously like thought about in your spare time, where does that come from?
I think a couple of things. I think one thing that like sparks it all is my like heritage because Iranians, like Persians, are very, like, we want you to be comfortable. We want to serve you. Like, we want to give you a piece of our heart. Like, we are so dramatic, but also like romantic in that way. Like, we just love to like, we love to love, basically. And I think that that is probably the root of it all, if I'm honest. But I think it's also just that I want people to leave the experience feeling very like comfortable, comforted, like taken care of, basically. And I think that over time, I've changed my practice here and there to make that more and more. I think there is a part of it that's also like honestly anxiety because I think especially when I started, I felt like so much imposter syndrome and so much like I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. So I think there was a little bit of like play there of like, I don't know, if I was playing tattoo artist, what would I be doing? And being like, oh yeah, let me take you in, let me do this. So I think like there's a little part of it that was born from anxiety, and like it helps me when I'm feeling more anxious with like a new client. It helps me to like take care of them and focus on them. And then my anxiety is kind of like backseat. So I think it's all three of those things in one, basically. But it's just the aftercare kit is one of my favorite things. Like, there's been so many times that I'm like, I really shouldn't spend so much money on this. And I have taken away things that weren't needed
What used to be in the
because I was
kit?
like,
What used to be in there?
I used to do these like glass jars that had gauze in them, and so it was like very sterile. But they were like these beautiful blue glass jars. But again, I was spending like way too much per kit, so I had to like calm it down a little bit. But I refuse to give up my jam and jelly jars and my teas that I give to clients, because I'm like, it's just nice to be like, okay, you got this done. This was like a thing. And it doesn't hurt for most people, but like, let's say it hurts a little bit, stings a little bit, then like, I'm glad that you can go home now and take care of yourself with this like jam and this tea and stuff. And it's so cute how excited people get. Like, that's like half of it for me at this point, is just like people will be like, oh, or like, for me, what? And like, literally like years later, they're like, oh, I was so excited to come in to see you for a touch up so I could get a new jam, or like something. And I'm like, these are available everywhere. Like, it's not
They're like,
here,
I can't
but
buy
it's
it.
so sweet. Yeah. I'm like, you can buy the big ones, but yeah, the cute, they're so little and cute that I'm like, I also get that. But yeah,
Oh
it's
my
just fun.
gosh. I can't have makes me feel like I need to get an aftercare kit. Some people have them, some people don't. Just add to the
Yeah.
list, add to the pile.
My thing, I know. My thing is like, I think it's a little different for tattoos than for microblading specifically, but I do think my thing is always too that like, I know myself and I'm lazy as fuck, and like, if I don't already have the like wash or the balm or the lotion or whatever, I'm probably not going to like stop at the store and get it. And so I always just feel like if I don't give them the stuff to take care of it, there's a chance that they might not take care of it at all. So I think giving it to them just makes sure, okay, like, I gave you everything you needed and now it's 100% on you, and like, if you mess it up from here, like, I did my job basically. But I think it is different from microblading than tattoos in that way.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, people know what to use. Microblading is, yeah, definitely different. I remember I got a visor for the shower for my
Okay.
aftercare. It stuck to my forehead, and
Did
I
they
really
have like
loved
no?
that.
Did they have you like not get it wet at all?
For at least, I think, the first couple of days. I remember having a couple disposable visors.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a couple of different aftercare methods, and that sounds kind of more like the dry heal method. And I learned that way, but I don't like that way because I just feel like the healing process is not as nice for the person healing. And then I also do feel like moisturized healing gives better heal results because it's like locking everything in there. I think it's just different from other stuff because it's like tattoos you can leave dry. I've heard tons of people be like, I do nothing to my tattoos and they turn out fine or whatever. But with microblading, because it is essentially tiny cuts, like, you really have to give it care like you would any other wound in that way, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
scar or
And I think
any
some
bad.
people are like, it looks fine. And then if, I swear if their artist saw it,
Uh-huh.
they'd be like, this is not
They'd
fine.
be like, it doesn't look fine. Yeah.
This is not what I left you with. But
And I'm just always like, do you want fine or do you want like the best possible results? Because in my opinion, for anything I do, I want to have the best possible results, especially if it's something that's going to be permanent or more permanent in general. So I'm like, yeah, wouldn't you rather take care of it and then be like, cool, it looks the best it could possibly look? But
100%,
that's me.
100%. I agree. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Has there been like people
Yeah.
that you've worked with or a mentor, or I guess it doesn't have to be a person that you worked with in tattooing that you worked with before that really shifted the way you think about all this?
I mean, honestly, not really. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like taking care of people is just such a big part of me. Like, that's why I loved being a nanny too, is I just love people to be comfortable. Like I love you to be having everything you possibly need and you feel great, you know? So I don't know. For me, I think that like all of that kind of was, I don't know, innate in that way. As far as like the healing method, I don't know if that's what you were asking, but the healing method, one, I just felt like it was logical. Like if you get a cut and you don't want it to scar, you would put stuff on, like it just is how it is. You wash it, you put stuff on it. But as far as like the exact healing method, I didn't try this until, let's see, I think that was 2020 or 2020, because of another microblade artist that I used to follow. And she does it this way, and her healed results were just so beautiful. I was like, hmm. So I tried it and immediately was like, yeah, this is way better.
There's something
100%.
to that. Is there a
Yeah.
community in Austin or in general for microblade artists? I guess I don't, because we work with so many people doing regular tattooing. I guess I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, kind of like there's an online community, but there isn't like meetups. There's no like again, I feel like there are people, especially in Austin, which is why I love Austin, who are very like friendly, very like, if you need anything, let me know, like willing to share knowledge, willing to like talk biz, all of that. But for some reason in the beauty industry, there's more people than I would say I've noticed in tattooing at least, but I'm also around great tattoo artists, so maybe that's it. But that are just so like closed off. Like they don't want to talk, they don't want to be friends, they don't want to, like, and it's just so weird and foreign to me because I'm like, why wouldn't you want to be friendly? I don't understand it, but
Yeah, we are kind of lucky. We do work with a lot of people who are like so supportive.
yeah, I love it. I know. I know. I feel really lucky that pretty much every tattoo artist I've worked with has been just like a nice, supportive person, and not been like looking down on me because I do different tattoos. I did almost work with somebody, long story short, who I could tell looked down on me because I don't do regular tattoos, but it was fine, obviously.
How do you know that? Did they say something to you?
They just said that whole thing of like, are you gonna do real tattoos at some point? And I was like, I don't know. I don't really know what my future has in store. And they were like, okay, because I hate when I forgot what they called it, like permanent makeup artists or something start tattooing and think that they can like do that. And I was like, I mean, like a lot of them is supposed to have machine knowledge, so it's really not that far as long as you actually like. So it's just like, I don't know, stuff like that. I'm like, that makes me think that you don't have respect for what I do,
Yeah, definitely. Was this person was almost your boss?
Yeah, this person was almost my boss, luckily. They were kind of my boss for like a very short period of time, but not actually, luckily. I was like, literally, I feel like the universe or whatever was just like, oh, no, like made it work out for me so that I didn't have to work with that person. And then I found out that they were not a great person to work with. So I was like, okay, cool, great. Love that for me.
What a weird comment to make to someone and then to
While
be
you're
like,
hiring someone.
you want to work together?
Yeah. Literally while you're hiring someone, I was like, but yeah, it was fine. Obviously worked out.
And I think that also the testament to the stark difference because I often hear people in the studio, other artists talking to you and being like, if you ever want to learn, I would love to help
Yeah,
you.
exactly. Yeah, that's something I really love about No Good is just like everyone is so open to new people, and I think that that's just a sign to like who they are as a person, in my opinion. Because if you're closed off to like other people learning your craft, that tells me that you're insecure, honestly. And if you're very open to like helping people learn or supporting people to learn, that tells me that you're secure in your art, you're secure in your work, because it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you be friendly in that way? It's like, it's the same thing as like, I've had people reach out to me and be like, can I ask you some questions or can I like shadow you? And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. I just want to make sure that you know how hard this industry is. But beyond that, like, I'm willing to help you understand how to learn because that's ridiculous to prevent someone.
Definitely.
I took on a freckle apprentice a couple years ago and surprisingly went like well as far as them learning, like they're doing it and everything. But it made me realize that like teaching is so much harder than I thought it was. Like it's different, like because I wanted to be a teacher growing up. So I thought like, well, I like teaching. Like I'm good at teaching. I taught kids things all the time. like I could do this. And I think it's just so different when it's an apprenticeship because it's teaching, which is already hard. And then it's also like managing and making sure that they are getting the education that they need and all that, which is, I don't know, it's scary.
Definitely.
I'm like, I don't want to be in charge of that. Yeah.
Was there some, did they just
I'm not
ask, or were you like, I'm ready to take an apprentice? I'm looking for one.
Yeah, no, they asked me specifically. It was one of my clients. I think they know them somehow, and so one of my clients was like, "You should ask her. She'll probably be really nice about it." Basically, and I think I was, but yeah,
Yeah, it's a good way to get
but
into
it is
it.
cool.
It is
Yeah, it
cool,
is cool to be like, "Oh wow, they're doing it." Like I love seeing that they're like thriving and doing it.
which is good energy, because it's weird for it to be the other way and be like, there's a
Uh-huh.
new person doing
They're
freckles.
taking my business.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's gross. Especially in an Austin, like a city like Austin, it's like it's big enough that there can be, multiple people tattooing freckles and be fine.
Yeah, definitely. Was there a moment in your career that you really felt like, wow, I'm I did this? Like, I know that you talked about no good always being the goal for you. It was also on my radar
Yeah.
from before I was tattooing too. And
Aw.
something like that. And we also started at the same time, which is fun.
Yeah.
But just like a moment where you kind of like were excited. I know you got a big heart, where you're like sitting at home having a glass of wine and you're like, damn, I'm here.
I think honestly, when I worked in my first tattoo shop, I had that feeling a couple, like maybe like a month in, but I was so stressed that it was a fleeting moment. But I think the reason I originally had that feeling was because in 2021 I started to have like more people coming to me that like weren't just referrals and weren't just like, friends of friends and stuff like that. And so there was some people that I had like followed on Instagram or were the owners of small businesses that I really admired and stuff like that. And I think having those people come to me and I'm like, wait, I am obsessed with you and your style and you're coming to me, like you trust me, you like my style, is like so huge. And then I think also when I had people start asking me for trades, that was a big deal for me because, especially again, you're like, I love your art and you're an amazing artist, like, because it's all tattoo trades. And so being like the fact that you, an amazing artist like mine, is like so cool. And I just like, yeah, I think those are the moments that made me be like, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. I'm actually doing an okay job that people want to come to me.
Yeah,
I'm not just
definitely.
like skating on by feeling like I'm barely making it. So yeah, I think those were the moments.
That's awesome. Where are you at right now? What's on your radar for Brow Joon?
I am trying to figure that out to some degree, but I'm exploring learning like stick and poke tattoos normal, like not just freckles. Because with freckles, it's like I have some of that knowledge there, but I don't know what that means to translate it. So I'm going to be, yeah, like just learning that. And I've been working on it in general. It's just kind of hard for me because I haven't been like doing my art outside of work as much. And I think that that's an important practice. So I'm trying to like get back into that art aspect also and not just be like, okay, I'm tattooing now, I don't know. I'm like, I feel like I want it to be a very like intentional, like, I don't know,
Process.
well practiced thing, if that makes sense.
Luckily, we know a few people for you to talk to that would
Yeah, and they've
love
been
to help.
so helpful. Like literally I'll just ask someone at the shop like what are you doing? What needle are you using? And they just are so nice to like tell me and explain things to me, show me things on Procreate and everything. I mean even one of my friends that works at 444 that I was just working at before No Good, like I got a tattoo from them because we were trading and they showed me like their apprenticeship notebook again. They showed me like all these things. They're like, this is what I like felt really helped me grow. And they gave me like these fake skins, like just like so much of the Austin community is like so open to that. And that's why I love it. That's why I love Austin, truly.
I love that. Is there something that's inspiring you right now, like an artist or just anything in general?
Honestly, the artists at No Good, like as cheesy as that is, like all of you, I just am constantly like looking at your work and being like, this is mind blowing. Like, this is crazy that you guys can do this. But I think in general, like, especially shading is something that's been really piquing my interest and like inspiring me, because I use shading for brows, but it's really different, obviously. But even with my shading in brows, like seeing the way that y'all shade has made me be like, huh, oh, and like in making my practice in that way even a little bit different. So yeah, I really feel like the artists at No Good are my inspiration right now.
That's so sweet, because then you see, like, when you did Flo's brows the other day, she came back in the office and everybody was like, my gosh, they look so good. That's so crazy. And now you have like a wait list. Like, everybody wants something.
It's crazy to me. And I'm always like, I do like some of my best work during trades, I think, because I'm intimidated in that way. Like, I'm like, with Flo, I'm like, oh my God, Flo's work is so beautiful. Like, I have to just do like an amazing job, even though I think that with everyone, obviously. But there's just like, I don't know, this part to it that I think I get like a little more inspired or something. I don't know. I'm like, no capitalism involved in this transaction. Like,
Just all for the love of the
really
game.
just two friends. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I love trades.
That's awesome. Is there anything that you really want to talk about before we kind of get to the end?
I mean, if I can get on my soapbox for a second, I guess the one thing I would say is just that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And some of it has some basis to it, but it is just like a really frustrating place to be in as a microblading artist, because there's this whole debate between like nano brows and microblading. Nano is done with like machine, that's the hair strokes done with machine. And microblading can also be called like microfeathering, nano blading. There's like a million words for it, basically. But anyways, there's a lot of misinformation right now that like microblading is never good. It never heals well. It always looks bad. It always ages poorly. And it's just not true. It's just like one of those things that cycles like fads. And so microblading was in, and then machine was in, and then now microblading was back in, and then now machine's back in. So I think it's just one of those things too, that it's like you have to, like anything, go to the right artist. You have to go to somebody who understands this specific method and, obviously see healed work and stuff. But that's my only thing that I would say soapboxy wise, because it's just frustrating to constantly see your career essentially be like thrown under the bus because people don't know how to do it. And I'm not saying that in a way like I know how to do it and you don't. It's just different methods. Like, I don't know how to do nano brows, and, somebody else does a beautiful job. Likewise, I know how to do microblading and somebody else doesn't. It just is like how it is, where, it just really depends on the method and how it's done, basically. But it's just frustrating.
I had no idea this was an area of controversy.
Yeah, it's so much on the internet, obviously, but there's a lot of artists who are just like, never get microblading. It's always terrible and bad. And again, I think a big part of that is because the market got so saturated with people like myself who had a bad training and were told to just do it and just get started and just to start tattooing people's faces. And so I think there is a lot of bad work out there because of that. And again, myself included, like my first, I would say like at least a year and a half, like it's not like it was all bad, but it is like when I look back on it now, I'm like, I could do such a better job than I could do back then. But it just is unfortunate that like that's influencing people's decision. Like, I'll do consultations with people and they'll be like, well, I heard, this and that. And I heard that like I shouldn't even be thinking about this at all, which at the end of the day, obviously do what's right for you and what you feel is right. But it's just not true, unfortunately. So that's just hard.
Wild. You should put out a little FAQ.
I know. I just have gotten so exhausted with fighting that misinformation that I was like, I'm done. Like, if you guys want to believe that, you can believe that kind of thing. But I think I'm at that point again where I'm like, no, this is frustrating, because like, this is my craft. And you're saying that it's always bad when I have actual proof that I can show you that says it's not. So yeah, but again, I've only been doing this for 5 years and change. So the most healed work I've seen is like 5 years down the line. And I sucked in the beginning. So as far as like my actual good work, like I'm only seeing that like 3.5 years down the line or something. And so it is frustrating in that way, but it is not, again, not a consistent, like, doesn't always go bad. It doesn't always go right, basically.
Sure. I think that's fair. I mean, you always see an apprentice tattoo when it's a normal tattoo.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it looks bad and sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly. It's like, in my opinion, any method can go poorly, any method can go great. It just depends on who you're going to. But there is this like notion out there of like, machine work is always going to be better. It's always going to be safer on the skin. But again, that's not true, because I've seen people who have come to me from other artists and they did like machine work and it's like they carved into that skin and there's just as much scarring as there would be if they did microblading. So again, it just depends.
So what should people be looking for when they're looking for their PMU artist, if they're like not in Austin, or besides like the obvious like healed work and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, even if they are in Austin, like style is I would say, one of the biggest things to choose, because if you go to somebody that has 100 million 5-star reviews, but you don't like their style, you're not going to like the outcome. So that's one of the first things I look for if I was looking for an artist. The second and arguably most important thing is their healed work. So making sure that they have a lot of healed work available to view. If someone's not posting any healed work or you have to ask for it, that's a huge red flag, like a ginormous red flag. It should be public. They should be posting it like regularly. And yeah, you should be able to see what that healed work looks like years down the line, not just like months or weeks or whatever.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your journey with me. Where can people find you, or how can people support you?
So I'm BrowJoon on Instagram. I think I'm BrowJoon on TikTok as well. But also I have my website, BrowJoon.com. But yeah, basically Instagram is where I have all my pictures and everything. So
perfect. And that's Brow Joon for Brow Joon.
Yes.
Spelled different.
Double O's. Yeah, because it's a Farsi word, so it's not English.
What does it mean?
Not the English. It's a term of endearment. So you'd be like, Kale June, and it's basically like just like a sweet kind of word. Like, yeah. So all my life, people have been saying that. But it also kind of became, I guess, slang in Iran for babe. So like if you see someone really hot, you'll be like, oof, June. You know, and I love that. So it's like cute and sweet, but it's also like, I don't know, hot.
Kind of hot at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I love it. It's
That's
perfect.
Kind of the perfect handle then. I love it. So then maybe one day on YouTube we'll find you at ASMR June.
Yeah. Everything will be June.
I love it. I love it. Cool. Well, thanks, Mish. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Today's episode was completely edited, recorded, and produced by Kale Pearson. The music was mixed and edited by Dominique Gopal. You can find us on social media at Breaking Skin Pod. For more information, check out our website, breakingskinpod.com. You can find my social media at kale.tattoos. That's spelled Kail. To check out more of my work, visit kaletattoos.com. For more information on today's guests, you can find their social media in the show notes. Please come hang out every Monday morning at 6 a.m. Central Time for another episode of the Breaking Skin Pod. Thank you all for listening and hanging out. We really appreciate the support. Can't wait to see you next week. Cheers.